This is iDesign Lab, a podcast where creativity and curiosity meet style and design. Curator of interiors, furnishings, and lifestyles. Hosted by Tiffany Woolley, an interior designer and a style enthusiast, along with her serial entrepreneur husband, Scott. iDesign Lab is your ultimate design podcast, where we explore the rich and vibrant world of design and its constant evolution in style and trends. Today on the iDesign Lab, meet Jay Reinert, founder of J Reinert Architecture and one of Forbes' top 200 residential architects, who blends craftsmanship, creativity, and precision to design spaces that don't just look incredible, but truly shape how we live.
Welcome to the iDesign Lab podcast. Today we are joined with Jay Reinert, who has an architecture firm, a founder, and actually a very serious designer as well. So we look forward to diving into this conversation. Welcome to rainy South Florida.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And tell the audience a little bit about your background. Introduce yourself.
How far would you like me to go?
Well, we're going to go back a little bit further, but just tell us a little introduction.
I grew up in a family that was very supportive. And I had a grandfather who was a boat builder and a carpenter who also worked for Curtis Publishing in Philadelphia. They closed the doors, and that gave him an opportunity to go do other things. Then found my way in college or in high school that I wanted to be an architect, and was supported incredibly well by two teachers at that time.
Your parents? Teachers.
By two teachers
Okay.
in high school. Two shop teachers.
Which is like something we don't even see much of these days.
It gives me goosebumps to think about how they changed my life path. And then went to UNC Charlotte and then NC State. Came out in 1990 where there was no work for architects.
And why was that?
I think that was the .com bust at the time.
Okay.
It was a real shame because I had spent some time with RTKL in Baltimore.
Okay.
And won a traveling fellowship summer internship with them. And so the summer before that, I had traveled the West Coast on their dime and generosity.
Amazing.
Studying every theme park, aquarium, and zoo on the way.
Wow.
From the Mexican border to Vancouver.
That's crazy.
So, when I graduated, they just let like 300 people go. Huh. So that opportunity kind of fell.
Another transition into what led you to.
Yeah, and that led me into relying on my building.
Yeah.
So you said your grandfather was a boat builder.
Mm-hmm.
When you say boat builder, like
he built racing dinghies, so small sailboats.
So cute.
Okay.
And my uncle won the worlds in a moth.
So did that experience of seeing what your grandfather was doing kind of set your goals or your?
He would have, I was encouraged to go to the basement with him and then work.
Right.
Not work. It was more an encouragement thing than like being forced to.
Well, and I feel like your story, which we're going to dive through, but I feel like you really had a hands-on approach versus technical approach.
Yes.
From the very beginning.
I was surprised when I got to architecture school.
Right. That you needed all this.
That I had I was coming from craft, and architecture at the time was celebrating philosophy and design thinking, right? Which was a surprise to me. I didn't have the vocabulary that and I won't call it intelligence, but certainly the grades that some of this other students had. But I made my way and
and it's worked out okay for you.
Made a difference. Yeah. I actually did really, really well through school. Coming from a hands-on approach versus an academic.
But you also have a construction background.
Yes.
So where did the construction background come into play?
So when I came out of school in 1990 and there was no work.
You went to work.
I bought a pickup truck.
Okay.
Lived in my parents' basement and started building decks and anything I can do to you know.
So at what
Get
point
started.
along, so you're now in construction, at what point does it sort of change to architecture?
So somewhere around 2000. So I was always doing architecture along with building.
Okay.
Right. I had connections with architects, so I was doing design build. I was building things I designed.
Okay.
Right. And it was a lot like being a sculptor.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't very financially productive. Right. When you want to take advantage of every opportunity you discover along the way in a building project, after a while you've been there too long.
Yeah.
So 2004-05, crazy enough, was the time where I decided it was time to stop being distracted by construction and start moving towards.
Yeah, but you're unique in the fact that from what we experience, with,
Mhm.
we work with quite a number of architects, and it's the one thing I think Tiffany Morso says it all the time, that most of these architects don't fully understand the construction or what's involved in it. Like,
And it's not part of architectural education.
Right.
I mean, so, like I was saying, architecture is more of a philosophical kind of,
mm-hmm.
endeavor, or a business endeavor, right? Or a science, the
Like a
the
physics,
craft
almost
part
like
is
a-
not something that most architects
Right.
are very interested. I shouldn't say not very interested in. They don't have the opportunity to get hands on. And in college, when I was going through school, my internship and my TA's positions were always running the shops. So helping other students figure out how to build furniture. I helped with a furniture design studio, and I was
Okay.
we did a lot of laminated furniture,
Yes.
just crazy fun
Yeah.
stuff. It was
Yeah.
great. So yeah, but most architects do not. If you ask them,
We run into it all the time.
Mhm.
I mean, I just had a conversation with an architect this past week, and I was asking him a question. He said, "Well, how'd the GC figure it out?"
yeah, I mean it's that is what I sell against.
Right.
Right.
That's
I
your
mean, one of the first
forte.
things in our conversations with prospective clients is that we're going to stay involved from the beginning to the end.
Right.
We think things through, so we're not giving them a suggestion. We're giving them an instruction.
Mm-hmm.
And if something happens and they need to change that, or an issue arises, we want to know about it.
Well, I look at it from the consumer or the client. It's beneficial to have someone like yourself who understands and has done the construction side and is an architect. At the end of the day, for the homeowner, remodeling or rebuild, you're saving them, I would believe, money in the process.
I think that we're certainly cleaning up the process.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's some great builders out there, and I always say,
Yes.
I don't want to limit anybody's input and creativity
No, it is
as
a
far as our projects go.
collaboration.
But you need to bring it to us and have a conversation with us.
Yeah.
You can't make a decision at 7:00 in the morning, to move a closet from that wall to that wall because you found a pipe in the wall that you don't want to move.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the way we make decisions. You
Right.
need to inform us, and we need to have a conversation with the client. And, in that conversation with the client, we discuss why that decision was made to begin with, and then give the builder, instruction on what to do. But yeah, it's a different process when you have a background, I think, in construction. And I'm not the only one. There are architects out there.
Yeah.
But so I don't want to badmouth the profession. There's certainly people who have expertise in certain
Correct.
Oh,
things,
for
Correct.
sure. Without a doubt.
but for residential projects,
Well-
especially in like the Philadelphia suburb area, right, where we have a lot of buildings already, and the idea is how do we make them become better and
Mhm.
become part of the client's life and represent who they are and their lifestyle and things. You got to be able to modify things,
Yeah.
which means you got to have an understanding of how they were put together at the
First
beginning,
place, right?
It's a little different if you're doing a new home, right? I mean,
That was one of the questions I was going to ask you, is that like as you transitioned from being in construction and kind of doing both, and you opened your firm and went into, is it mainly residential?
Mainly residential, although we do some commercial work where the client wants to have fun,
Right.
and or it's meaningful to the community that we're in.
Okay.
I just did a garden center, an expansion of a hardware store, which is now an Ace, but it was a hardware store, family owned for like 100 years.
Oh.
And they bought the lot next door to them and want to extend that into a garden center. But it happens to be in the center of our town.
Uh-huh. That's fun.
So that was a project I took on so that it didn't end up looking like the
Some
back
new,
of a Home Depot,
right, yes.
in the middle
keep that
of our
charm
town.
And keep the character.
So how do we get involved in, so it turned a little more into a park atmosphere where we tried to activate the sidewalk, so we do anything that's fun.
That's a
I
good
tell
thing.
clients, I'll design a birdhouse for you. If you're interested in going through a process that gets the birdhouse that you want, then I don't care what we're designing.
Right.
And that's something else besides the building end. We expect our clients to be highly involved in the process.
Well, it is a collaboration, and you're bringing your expertise to the table.
And what I try to explain is that I'm going to help them understand their options.
I know, I like to do that too.
Through alternatives. Everything I do is alternatives.
I'm not the one who's like, this is the way it's got to be, and this is...
I practice the same way.
Yeah.
My best clients seem to be very creative people.
Yeah.
Who are a little afraid to take on the project.
That trust themselves almost, right. Like they have great idea, great taste, but don't have like all the technical.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of architect firms that, basically just, they want a program, a brief, and then go away and we'll show you what your house is going to look like in 6 months, and that's not us. I mean, if you're not going to be involved and think about things deeply and care, then you're better off going to somebody else.
Right. So do you primarily do a lot of renovation since you're in an area where there is such an established town? And
yes, that's a plus and a minus.
I think it's so wonderful because we live here and there is so many new communities where they're just starting from scratch, and there's the cookie cutter world where we also have projects that are architectural little gems that we're trying to preserve and bring to the next generation. And they are historical properties. So we have to deal with historical society. Are you dealing with that too?
Yes.
And a lot of people don't want to take them on. So I always applaud people who do.
The goal, whether it's zoning or whether it's historic or what, is understanding where the regulations are coming from and what they're trying to accomplish, and then do the best you can creatively,
right,
to address those,
right?
And then when you present them, you can explain to them that we can't do this because of that, but we would like to do this, And I do some contemporary work as well as, kind of restoration.
Right.
Not to the point of Department of Interior restoration stuff, but and it really is important, I think, my office is in Haddonfield, New Jersey, which was founded, before 1700. It's so
crazy.
It's a really interesting
Beautiful
story, actually. Elizabeth Haddon came over as like a 16-year-old and founded Haddonfield, and I'm like, a 16-year-old woman by herself, which is a girl.
Right.
You have 16-year-olds or something about like that. I mean, it just blows my mind.
That is amazing
to read
to think
about how, and it was a Quaker community, and the area had to be settled and lived in where they would lose the rights to the property. And so Haddon had his daughter come over on a boat and settle Haddonfield, which is just blows my mind. So we have a lot of
I would say influence, right, from her.
yeah. So the
And her vision.
community is a lot of Forest Square. We do have some Victorian. We have some colonial, and then we have a lot of development done in like the 20s, and those buildings typically are small in scale. The houses are smaller in scale than people typically want today.
Okay.
So, there's a knockdown problem, like in every community,
Yes.
right? And the neighborhoods are changing in character. And they really are established, beautiful neighborhoods, And so there's a big uproar about, are we wrecking, the feel of a community? And so I've kind of developed a thought about how to deal with that, and my thinking is if it's well built, was well designed, represents a historical time in architecture like Victorian or Foursquare,
Right.
And adds to the character and context of the community, then we ought to protect that.
How far back was it started? Did she start?
So
she came here.
I'm not great with dates, but late 1600s,
Is
I
that
believe, was
just
the first.
crazy?
1600. Okay.
Yeah, and there were some major events that happened in Haddonfield through the Revolution, and
Right.
And so there's some history there,
That should
what
be
we call history.
preserved,
My daughter's in
yeah.
Edinburgh, and that's where the real history
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so when we talk about history, it's kind
No,
of
but
funny.
I think when comparison to what's in Europe, we want to preserve that here.
Yes.
I mean, in every little little
Mhm.
space we can.
Yeah, and so the Department of Interior says we have to protect, or if like we have a historic district, right?
Yep.
Anything in the historic district, you can do anything you want to it except change the
exterior.
the street facing, public facing facades, right?
Yes.
I think that's like way under what we should be doing. I mean, buildings, the floor plans of buildings explain what society was like at that time.
Oh,
and what was
totally.
important,
Right. Isn't it just like the use of a kitchen was so different?
Exactly.
I mean,
When you walk into a house and there's a parlor on the right,
yes,
that's this beautiful
a
space
receiving room.
where Dad came home, sat down, had his brandy and his cigar.
Yeah.
And the kitchen's in the back with one little teeny window.
Yes.
It tells you about
They
the
had
dynamics of a
health
family.
And yeah.
And as we raise that by just blowing things out and making open plan,
floor plan.
it's just killing. So I do think there's some properties that should be protected much more than we protect them, and maybe should even be museums,
Right.
right? And somebody will choose to live there. I mean, they might need to wear a bonnet and stuff, but hey, and then most of the houses, 90% of the houses are homes that are adding to the context, in the way that
the original
property,
footprint
the neighborhood feels. Those we ought to be evolving slowly to support contemporary lifestyle.
Right.
And respecting, the community and its feel, and I think they even should be giving like abatement for that. If you don't knock this house down and instead you work with it, we're gonna give you
support
10
you.
years of $100,000 on the first $100,000 you spend or something. That put your money where your mouth is.
Like I
if
said,
you
I
think this is
cheerlead
valuable, then
that.
figure out a way to encourage it. Encouraging instead of making rules, I think, is the best
Working
approach.
with somebody for sure.
And then there's houses that should be knocked down, right? I mean, there are houses that don't add to the community, weren't well maintained, weren't well designed or built in the beginning. And those houses, I believe, we should be building homes of our time. The same as, say, the Victorians that we're trying to save were homes, of 1890 or 1890.
Is it a large percentage of homes that you're doing that fall into that category that you're having to deal with?
So the houses that I do mostly renovation work.
Right.
And
So
then I do
you run into a lot
homes.
of it being where you're located.
Yes. And new homes are typically done by flippers, right?
Right.
Developers.
Yeah.
So they're buying properties and knock them down, right?
Mhm.
So when we get to do a home,
From
a new home,
ground
when we
up.
decide that and determine that knocking it down is the best thing to do, then I want to do a project that is significant, and it's going to be different,
Right.
right? I mean, it's going to be contemporary probably, but it should still address and work and respect the
Like
context
the
that it's in,
materials
right?
that you use and
But I always laugh because, in 1885, when the first Victorian started to get built in the
Mhm.
Quaker community of Haddonfield, and it's a Queen Anne, it, people were saying, I mean, how can they begin to think to build a house as
Like-
beautiful as heaven?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
and so new styles of architecture in traditional towns have been resisted forever,
yes,
Right.
but they're the ones that start to get
become
appreciated and say.
over time.
So for us, designing homes that meet a family's lifestyle
Yes,
for today
right.
is what we should be doing in that case. So here it's a hard thing. I mean, with you guys having mostly new homes, that's a whole different.
It is, and that's why just even in what we do together, separately, but in the same type of background, I feel like it's actually more exciting to work on houses that are existing, that you have the challenges, and that you are trying to, make more beautiful, but maintain that original
Look and feel.
look and feel.
Mhm.
And not necessarily blow them out or anything like that, but I feel like I enjoy that challenge more than I do just the throw them up square boxes, not a lot of character.
Yeah.
They all kind of look the same on the street.
Mhm.
I definitely prefer those beautiful time capsules, and really enjoy working on that too.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, I enjoy each type.
In its own
They
way.
have its own
Yeah.
Yeah, the renovation work, when you have some limits, it does kind of make the design process a little different than if,
You
it's
can just
really
do whatever you want.
yeah, it's taste.
Right.
I mean, the clients are bringing to the project
Yes.
the aesthetics,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
we don't get anybody who wants a Victorian home designed and we end up giving them a contemporary house.
Correct.
That just doesn't happen, right?
No.
And
No.
as even in the architecture field, one thing I keep hearing a lot about is oh, they just don't build things like this anymore. Where is the character and where is the craftsmanship? And why do you think we are cleaning things up? Obviously, we live in a more fast-paced
Mhm.
environment and people want things quicker and all that beauty and layers take a lot of time. But what's your thought process behind all that? Why are we not taking as much time?
I think for all the reasons that you just said is one of them, is part of it. I think that flexibility is really important in new construction these
True.
days.
Yes.
And I mean, that is a sustainable thing.
And they're trying to
right?
appeal to multiple.
And even as life changes, right?
True.
We do a lot of aging in place. And, I mean, a 1920s cottage doesn't, adapt well to aging in place, right? And so, I mean, the newer stuff, I think if we can keep it flexible enough that, a bedroom can become an office, right? Then that's probably a benefit. But it's also the days in our world, the days of the gymnasium with a kitchen in the corner called an open plan are over.
Yeah, which
Right.
I do appreciate that
Yes,
part.
so do I.
I'm even talking about the ornamentals and just all the
Well, you're talking about craftsmanship.
craftsmanship.
Well, so there's
yeah.
craftsmanship in lack of ornament too.
There is.
And
Okay.
from the
that's-
builder end, another piece of trim to cover a gap is easier than spending the time from the rough ends
Right.
to make sure that the tile's going to lay out properly, right?
There's no gap.
So, right.
Yeah.
And so it's a much more invested builder who is trying to meet close tolerances than covering sins, But that said, I mean, I think it's expensive.
Yes,
Um,
that's true.
and I'm not sure. I mean, like I'm sure down here. I mean, we're certainly going to wood in our natural wood again.
Yes, we are.
Giving an earthy feel to buildings.
Organic, yeah, eco,
And
chic.
so, is it harder to put a bunch of 1 by 1 by 16 foot long together with a 1/2 inch gap between them, than it was to put crown molding up? I'm not sure. But why are we being more streamlined is probably because we're just simpler. I mean, I think we are definitely simpler, right? I mean, especially after COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
look,
It's true.
if this was 10 years ago when I was coming, I'd probably have a suit on.
Right. I know. Like us. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we are, I think some of it's societal. And, when I ride around and if I see a new home that is trying to appear
Old.
But
that's a replica, right?
I also think it goes back to something that we talked about when we first sat down. Shop.
Yeah.
I mean, in high school, shop was something like big, huge.
Right.
I don't think any schools have shop anymore.
No, they don't have shop
But
class.
but what does everyone have? A cell phone.
Yes.
So they're not learning. People aren't learning the skills and the crafts
No.
that they were years ago. Now they're learning how to
Yeah.
search, and social media and
Yeah.
so the skills.
And their expectations are different with social media, right?
Right.
I mean, I would say 10 years ago, most of our projects were drywall and trim,
Right.
right? And like special was, a wall that was painted out a different color to try to pop the wall, right? Now the finishes budget is equaling the rough construction budget,
Mm-hmm.
So true.
and
You're right.
most people don't. I mean,
I don't think
there's a lot of people who don't
I
have
don't
that
think
kind of
people
money.
do
But I don't think
that
people
either.
realize or even understand that.
Well, I mean, why construction costs have gone to where they've gone, I think a lot has to do with people's expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a lot of people who are below what they're saying who aren't hiring interiors and architects because they think that all they can afford is drywall.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe that architecture is the space. It's not the things. The things just surround the space. And so drywall's fine. I mean, we can create great space,
With
that doesn't have to have a bunch of stuff.
Right.
Right. But I will, the replica thing is one of my pet peeves.
okay.
I'm a old car guy, right?
Yeah.
And I took my son to a Porsche swap meet, and there were 4 356s lined up, and there were speedsters, right? Like what James Dean died in, like that.
Yep,
that
yep.
cool car.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
And 3 of them were like worn and rusted, and and one was beautiful, right? And I asked him, so which car would you pick? Well, of course he wants the gorgeous, the one perfect, right?
Right.
I'm like, you just gave away $1 million. I mean, that was a replica car that made the cars next to it look like they were trash.
Right.
And those cars are worth $1 million.
Is that crazy? To,
Right.
what a good analogy.
So what I learned, through that is the craft person in me can respect the effort and talent that it went in to making that replica.
Mm-hmm.
It should have had a different area in the show,
Right.
right?
Yep.
It shouldn't be put next to something authentic.
Correct.
And so if that was in an area where we knew they were all, replicas, then you could really dig in and say, man, the craftsmanship in this is really incredible, right?
Right.
But you take it over there, and really what it made all of these valuable relics
Mm-hmm.
Seem less
look like you
valuable.
could just put them on a dumpster and put them in a dumpster and take them away.
Right.
So houses, I feel, are like that too. I think it's really important not to be putting replicas next to authentic pieces.
This actually makes good sense. I mean,
yeah.
and you see a lot of that in Palm Beach. Like you drive down A1A. I mean, you appreciate the different, like kind of like how you said of your town. You appreciate the eras,
Mhm.
from different historical time frames where they really highlighted architectural details in
Right.
different ways.
And I think it's important that, we establish the difference between like developer now and architectural now, right?
I know. And
There's a difference, like soon as you see a McDonald's start to get those finishes, then they're done.
it's or Starbucks.
Yeah,
right.
it's
Which with all the wood cladding and
Right.
I know.
So then it's done, and you should be looking for the next thing.
Ooh, I
right?
like that, Scott.
And so that the replica or the new intervention, if it's an existing neighborhood, we'll call it an intervention, right? I mean, we're putting something new in a neighborhood. It's still got to respect the area that it is, right? I mean, and that's really important, I think.
Well, and as you do travel and you go through different areas too, you can appreciate where people had that artistic, intention, consistency versus some areas where how did that get allowed to be put here?
Right.
You're just like,
right.
that makes
that's
no
commonplace
sense.
today.
Yeah. But like if you go to a place like Princeton or Charleston, right? And you look at their ability to incorporate contemporary architecture into a historic context and make the whole place richer environmentally.
Right.
That's, I think, where we should be trying to get, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that takes some mistakes, right?
True.
I mean, so, and those mistakes are just going to be knocked down anyway again, right? So what's
Right.
I mean, I think that's my feeling. And understanding what it is. I mean, it is it's psychology. You know this from being from interiors. I mean, you're trying to make a person feel a certain way about life and themselves.
Yeah, evoke emotion.
And some people are really touchy-feely about detail, and some people want as much sun as they can get because the vitamin D is just fantastic.
Right.
So what is your process? Like, I mean, does it vary? Obviously, it's going to vary if it's a new project or a renovation, but what is your process when a new client comes to you?
We start out in pre-design regardless, and pre-design for us is gathering all the information we need to get started having fun, right?
Okay.
So if it's a renovation, then we're doing the as-built drawing, we're surveying the house, doing the as-built drawings, reviewing the zoning and external rules, and sitting with the client and generating a program and design brief.
How important is it in that process when you're starting out to simultaneously be thinking and doing the interior design? Because most people look at it as I'm going to hire an architect and I'm going to build the house, and then the house is being built. Now we're going to bring an interiors person, which is what most people.
Yeah, I mean that's the typical process.
Correct.
Right? And I can explain that perfect in our next phase, which is schematic design.
Yeah.
Right. Which is where we're having fun, right? I mean, so
where you're laying things out.
So
you're doing the floor
pre-design
plan.
is like we have the game plan, we know the playing field,
the rooms.
we have a little bit of we have a rule book, know, and then we start to have fun when we move into schematic design. So just the understanding of how important it was to have a builder within me as an architect,
which is a big plus for whoever's hiring you.
I began to understand the importance of having an interiors person involved, right? And so I brought an interiors person into our firm. And so typically the process is, the architect designs something, and then that brick is handed to the interiors person, and the interiors person takes a different brick and puts it on top of it, and and sometimes they want us to modify the brick below, but so it's not a continuous process, right? It's more kind of staged. My goal was to have an interiors person involved in architecture. So if this much is architecture of the project, this much is interiors at the beginning, right? And by the time we get over here, this much should be architecture and that much should be interiors, right? So it's one process that tapers through. And that way, I feel like all of the deep thinking that we did in the beginning is transferred straight through. And we're not challenging all the decisions we made in the architectural design process, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing. And it's really the impact it has on the client that drove me to do that. I mean, because we make them make tough decisions, and they're making the decisions.
Yeah.
And so if they've got to go make that decision again in 6 months, it's just not fair.
I know. And I feel like furniture layouts are such a significant part of the architectural
like
phase
when we
of
do
the house.
exterior, outside living spaces and stuff, typically we're starting with the furniture layout.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out the building around it.
Right.
Right. I mean, again.
So you're interior designing first.
Space planning, definitely.
Yeah.
Right. And then Emily, my interiors person, I mean, we don't procure, so we don't want to go to that level.
Right.
But we do have design decks and things to share what our inspiration was, where we're hoping it to go, and things like that to help,
I think it's a big mistake that a lot of clients and a lot of people who are starting and
you're
embarking,
building a significant house,
doing a big remodel or building a house, don't think about that and are thinking about it too late.
Really, really important.
When I got involved with Tiffany a few years ago with the interior design, because she's been doing this for 25 years, a friend of mine, when I joined her and working with her, he said to me, he's like, Scott, I'm investing in houses. I'm the guy who's putting the money up, and I got 2 different companies that I'm giving them the money. He's like, I'm going to stop doing that, but I want to talk to Tiffany. Why are you going to stop? He goes, well, it's been profitable, but he goes, it's been so frustrating. I said, what is frustrating? He's like, well, I did a house with them. I funded it. The house went up, but it wasn't selling. So I moved into the house. He goes, I was in a transition, and I thought,
that's interesting. That ought to be a requirement, just like architects' building should be a requirement.
He moved in because he was part of the burn and maintaining that house while it was up for sale. And he says to me, he's like, what a wide opening experience. He's like, I said, I still don't understand what you're saying. He's like, I moved into the house, and the first thing that I realized is the kitchen didn't have a garbage pail, like in any cabinet. He goes, I'm used to having a garbage pail next to the sink.
Modern convenience.
There was no garbage pail. He goes, and then in the master bathroom, I go in the shower, there's no place to put my shampoo.
Right.
And he's like, I had to buy this rack that I had to hang from the shower head. And he goes, we're talking about a $3 million house that had no place to put shampoo. And he's like, on top of it, I could have fit 8 people in this shower. He goes, but the master closet on the other side of the wall, he says, I couldn't even put all my clothes in. How was a husband and wife going to buy this house? The master closet was so small. He goes, the shower should have been the master closet. He goes, but the architect who did this didn't look at this and design it from the perspective of a buyer.
Unfortunately, development types of projects.
I know, and I like how you used that. Development is a total nother animal.
Yeah, they have a recipe.
Right.
And as long as that recipe all land, it doesn't matter if the eggs and milk go in first.
Right.
That doesn't matter to them. As long as everything that's in there that they can check off the real estate listing. Yeah. How many houses do you drive by that nobody's in? Correct. People will buy just about anything.
Yeah.
And and be proud of it. So that's why I'm always cautious,
It's true.
And the other thing I like to bring up to clients all the time too is pretty much no matter what I've worked on in my life, it's in the 0.5% of the way the world lives. Right? I mean, we better be damn grateful.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we shouldn't try to make it better.
Right.
But, when I hear a comment like, can you believe I have to live like this? I leave. Sorry, I don't think we'll work well together. if that just blows my mind when somebody, it's the kitchen's not in style. It's, but it was done in the 90s. We get a lot of that, and it's just, it doesn't work for them now, and it needs to be updated. But if you tell me that that's a hardship,
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to appreciate anything we do.
Yeah, that's a good thought process.
And that people who expect, there's limits to everything we can do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so with managing client expectations
It's huge, yes.
is the thing that's the second hardest thing that I never thought I was going to have to do. The first is social media.
I know. So
being an architect, I never thought social media was going to be.
Well, it doesn't matter what profession you're in these days. You have to know social media.
Yeah, and then client expectations is tough.
which obviously you're doing a very good job of, since you just had a huge recognition with Forbes. Congratulations
you.
on that.
One of the top architects in the country.
We were named top 200 residential architects in
That's
America.
Amazing.
And then top 400 best in state. So that they broke up into states. And
So how did that feel when you were told that or heard that?
My, there was the whole process was like.
Did you know that you were up for this in the process?
In March of 2025, we received an email that basically said, congratulations, you've been, selected to submit for, and, Nancy, our office manager, came to me with it and said, do you think this is real? And I'm like, probably not. And, I like to work late. And so I started looking it up, and I realized this is real, and I'm thinking,
What project am I going to submit?
yeah. So
did you have to submit projects?
So it asked for 1 to 3 projects, and I had some questions because we didn't have a bunch of new houses, and it seemed like it was asking for new houses. So I contacted the editor, who had his cell phone number on the. Yeah, it was crazy. And I'm saying, are you looking for new homes? Are you looking for renovations? And he said, it's interesting. We thought we were going to have more new homes, but we see a lot of renovation work on architects' desks right now. So we're probably going to have to figure out how to do that evaluation. And so I'm like, okay. And he said, so the house had to be completed in 2019 or after. And he said, so when was Hadrow House completed? Which was like our best, most academic kind of project, And
So the fact he knew the name of it,
so
right?
he probably was sitting at his computer and Googled the name that came up on his phone, probably. But so I'm like, that one I'm definitely going to submit. But and so after that conversation, I'm like, I'm only going to submit one because I'm going to the work. I could ruin it with the others.
Right.
That's funny.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they evaluated how their criteria of decisions came out after we found out. They evaluated 18,000 architects' websites.
Unbelievable.
And picked 750 to ask to submit to get to the 200. And they had real criteria that they were grading things by, which was really interesting. And I'm just like, the fact that they were able to find a small firm in Haddonfield, New Jersey, we're not La Jolla. Right. It just blows my mind that that the process that they came up with was able to kind of bring us to the top.
Yeah.
So finally feeling some recognition for something that my family has paid a big price for over the years was really rewarding. And it was a surprise.
Aw.
Matter of fact, I found out when a friend of mine's firm got listed in North Carolina and put it out on Instagram. And I'm like, damn, I guess I didn't make it, And then you go through the whole imposter syndrome thing that all architects and designers have, where you're walking around going, well, why would you think you'd get in there anyway, right? And so then I opened up the app and I went to look for the list, and Kirstine is the name. And so I'm J and K, right?
Yeah.
So as I'm flipping through the list, I come across my name.
Oh, so you found it yourself?
That's how I
you
found out.
Oh my God.
They don't want to release the list because you'll ruin it. Right? I mean, they spend a lot of money putting the list together, and if it gets leaked, then they don't have a list, right?
Right.
And so that's how I found. Yeah, I like jumped out of my chair, ran in and told my wife, jumped in the car and drove to my dad's house and told my dad.
That's amazing.
At 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, it was definitely
a career highlight.
Yeah, it really was, and I didn't understand why. And then when the criteria, the evaluation criteria came out, which I think anybody creating a website should probably go look for that, because they list how they credited things. One is that you value your work enough to have professional photography taken, right? I mean, I think that's actually so they were looking for people who were very serious.
That's something we lack on. We just haven't had the time on so many projects to.
It's Hadrow House. I was blessed with a famous architectural photographer out of Philadelphia. He used to work with Robert Venturi's office. He was an employee, in-house photographer, and he reached out to me, and I was posting on Instagram, and he said, "Jay, I'd love to photograph this project for you." And I'm like, "Matt, I know who you are, and I don't think I can afford,
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, maybe you can," and he sent me a proposal.
Is that
and
amazing?
I was like, and so he shot our work, and there, as long as it's well done photography, I think that that's all that really. I mean, having his name credited on my work probably helped. I mean, I think.
I'm sure.
So that's part of that commitment to your profession and your work that Forbes was looking for. They were looking for people who were trying to create place, right? So they wanted a New Jersey architect who was trying to design for New Jersey, not designing California or Florida.
Which I love. I really do. And I have such appreciation for.
And then, the other agenda they had when they did it was to be able to give clients looking for architects,
Good
anywhere
overviews
in the country, so they could have found 200 great architects in, LA.
Right.
Right. So it's just it was a wonderful experience.
So how has that changed the way you've approached future projects? Has it or no?
It has changed how I approach my my office and my profession and myself.
I bet.
More so than the work. I mean, the work has always kind of been what the work is. It's given me the confidence to speak out about it.
Good for you.
Like to talk in Haddonfield. Like now we did an exhibit on Art Walk in Haddonfield about architecture, and I feel like now it's not me sharing my opinion about how well-done contemporary architecture in a historic town can better the visual richness of a community. Now, like if I would have said that 3 years ago,
people have been like,
it's Jay's opinion. You know what I mean? Now with some backing behind my opinion, I feel more comfortable speaking out about how I feel about architecture. And its impact on people's lives and
a special community. Because I mean, that's something that's going to stand the test of time. Yeah. And I do feel like even in this field, like you do have to educate people along the way of the importance of the architecture. It's not, as we said before, just the drywall can do anything. But I mean, it really does have value. And sometimes people don't understand that. It's kind of our job to share and inform along the way.
It definitely is, and and it doesn't have to be expensive either. Like
No.
I use an example all the time. Like, so a 2x4 costs like $6 now or somewhere around there, right? I always want to say $1.95 because that's what it was when I was building, right?
Mhm.
But now it's probably $6, right?
Right.
And where you put that 2x4, can make that 2x4 worth $6,000,
Mhm.
and it's not, it's drywall and 2x4s or 6s, or, you know what I mean? Like that's creating space. And if you put that 2x4 in a design that takes advantage of it, it's worth more than its weight, right?
Yeah.
If you nail it across the front door, it's not worth anything, right? It devalues the whole house, right?
Mhm.
And that's design.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that affects the value of that 2x4 is good design. And so it doesn't just have to be on expensive projects. Good design works.
So how do you balance creativity
Yes.
and a profitable business? Like,
I have a business
Yeah.
manager. I've never been a good businessman.
so you're putting more emphasis into creativity, and
I-
because creativity takes time, and time is money.
At the expense
And-
of my family, and my wife has paid a dear toll on,
So you spend a lot of
waking
hours
up every
you spend-
morning at 3:00 to get to her job and, carry the mortgage and the health
Mhm.
care while I was building,
Your business.
and that wasn't till, she's still doing that, right? So this isn't like something where Forbes came along and now all of a sudden we're rolling in dough, right?
Yeah.
That's
Right,
just
right.
not the case.
Yeah.
So from a business end, I've always held to like thinking design is most important.
Mhm.
And I guess I was probably willing to live in a trailer if that's what it took. My wife wasn't. So that's why she, and so, design, science, still staying up with building science is difficult, and business practice, and the business practice for me is the one that I care least about. And the bank account, I would tell anybody as advice, maybe the best thing I did as a business person was hire
A business manager.
an office manager. She is on top of me and make sure that, everything is
You're
on my
accountable.
schedule. Yeah. And, and the account, the bank account had, for the first time, is like amazing, right? And it's because there's some focus on it.
Right.
We
Right.
sit down every Monday, and
Which has got to be a great reward on top of it all too, that you can be creative and do what you do best and let somebody else.
It's the thing that changed my life, instead of feeling like underperforming and all the things that, now I have a drafts person who's a technical person as well, not an architect, but 20 years experience in
Yep.
residential construction, and an interiors person to contribute into the design work. And, she doesn't just do interiors. Like when we're talking about architecture, like when we were looking at my stuff,
Yeah.
Emily's, review exterior finishes with Emily, like we want to make sure that everything is working together. And that she's,
Cohesively.
So when you design, do you use CAD yourself, or you hand
yes,
sketch, or
I, depending on what's,
like Tiffany does everything still by hand?
so
She draws it, sketches
yellow
it.
still in-
bum
I'm-
yellow bum, trace
Yeah,
paper.
I'm still
Yeah,
an old
rolls of
school.
trace
Yeah.
paper.
and I
and-
still like the canary yellow.
Yeah.
I don't like the white,
Yeah.
And I sketch a lot, and then move into, and it depends if Steve's busy doing construction documents, a project that we need to get out. So the office is like one person each, right? So
Right.
when that person's busy, you don't have somebody else,
Doing it.
right? So
Yeah,
Correct.
we're in the
that's
same
still
boat
when it comes
here.
back to me,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like to sketch, and then if I have somebody like even Emily available for an exterior, I'll hand her a sketch, and she'll develop the exterior, and then
Right.
the review. I also don't hire anybody like that's not in the office. If you can't come to my office,
No, I agree.
then
We're the
We like
same
the
way.
the
hands-on
way you communicate and
collaboration.
collaborate, and also
Just how you're on the fly with things in the office, and you
Yeah.
come up
And
with an
things
idea and it changes,
morphous, you
or
know,
the client
they-
Right.
walks in, or one of the contractors or subcontractors walk. You can all work together.
yes, but from a business perspective,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
If I'm expecting that I'm going to have 100 hours in schematic design, right?
Yep.
And somebody's working from home and they put 8 hours in going in the wrong direction,
Yeah.
that's disaster,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's where the
I wanna be
that's
able-
where the profitability,
I mean,
and also
maybe I'm a control freak, but
No,
I
but it's
like
a-
to be able.
I
I'd
think
like to be
creatives are
able
with their
to walk
designs.
by a desk and or have somebody go, Jay, can you take a look at this, right?
But I think more than anything, it's just keeping the project on time, so the client's happy, so you're meeting deadlines and so forth
Yes,
by having everyone in house as
yes,
well.
it's a big help.
Yeah, we've sat and we've recently been hiring people. Hired 2 people and interviewing people. We got people saying to us, "Well, I can work from home. I can do everything you want from home." Well, we're not looking for someone from home. Oh no, but you have to understand, I can really do a lot from home. They're trying to sell us.
Yeah, no, I just, and it's not that they're not going to work hard, and they're not.
Oh yeah,
It's
It's just not part. I mean, and that might have to change someday, right? I mean, I'm not.
no, the collaboration of the team and everyone being in the same
that's
office
where design
really,
is so fluid, too.
Mhm.
and also I think it creates a funness.
Oh, it
keeping
does. I
fun.
want to live in the studio that I was in college.
Yeah.
That's the environment that I
So
create.
what advice would you give to an individual now who's, let's say they're graduating from high school, getting into college, thinking about a career? What should they be thinking about?
As far as architecture goes,
Yeah.
that's a hard question because architecture has changed so quickly
Yeah.
over the last 10 years, right? When I came out of school, we were still hand drawing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd hoped that I could get through my career before having to learn AutoCAD,
Right.
right? Well, that didn't happen, right? I still don't, I do SketchUp, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
3D and SketchUp, but I
Yep.
don't do Revit and things,
Yeah.
So, and I'm hoping that I can get through the end of my career, which that's when I die. I'm not going to stop working.
Yeah,
I mean,
same
to
thing.
me, this is my life.
Yeah.
This is what I like to
Right.
do. So, and I'm not a fisherman or a golfer. So, yeah, that's what I would
The
recommend.
technical.
The beauty of an architectural education is its well-roundedness and problem solving, right? Architecture is a problem solving activity, right? And so with those skills, you should be able to put that problem solving
To good use.
into any kind of situation.
Right.
And so architects, are very valuable outside of architecture. And it's amazing how many architecture students don't go into architecture. I mean, as far as respected profession,
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is?
It's a money thing.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, it's a respected profession in a cocktail party. In the bank account, not so much.
Well, I feel like the development part of it probably had some say in that, because I feel like a lot of architects who have gone on and become, financially, they've taken on that dual role of developer, architect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, every architect has to make a decision on what they. I was driven by design.
Mm-hmm.
And some are driven by business.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah.
And, I say a lot because, in New Jersey or South Jersey, Philadelphia area, pizza's a big thing, right?
Pizza.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So a lot of times I say, if I wanted to develop a business to sell drawings like slices of pizza,
Yeah.
I would have opened a pizza point.
Right.
I would have. I could have eaten my, anything that I couldn't sell. I could eat. You can't eat drawings.
Yeah.
So
So with that said, would you expand your business? Do you look to grow it in any way?
I would, in a market that's better than now,
Yeah.
right? I would love to have a young architect who was ambitious to learn
And mentor.
and mentor. Yeah. I mean, that is a lot. I enjoy that a lot. I enjoy having interns because it makes me speak out loud what I'm thinking. So my design process becomes evident to me because I have to explain it to somebody. Whereas if I don't have to explain it to somebody, it just stays inside.
So you like having interns?
I work better with people than I do, on my own.
It's interesting because this morning before 7:15 or 7:30, we had our twins at their school. We had to go see
their college advisors.
Their college advisors. They're in high school. And then basically the conversation was about the courses they're taking because they're sophomores next year, junior and senior. And the school is very focused on academics and college and what colleges are you thinking about. And one of our daughters is very interested in architecture. She really loves it. And she wants to continue her architectural classes. And I found it interesting as the counselor said in senior year, internship. And I was like, great. Because when I went to college, I took an internship and it was the greatest thing that I ever did. And, I said to them, the school picks what the interns are, what internships. And I said, well, she really wants to be an architect. Will it be an architectural company? She said, well, maybe not necessarily. I said, that makes no sense. Yeah. I said, because I think an internship in an architect's firm would be great for her.
It's not always easy to find.
Well, I asked her, I said, if we can help get an architectural firm that will take her on, will the school...
Yeah,
right. And that would be great. They were saying yes. And, and then she was talking about her electives, they're not necessarily most important classes. And I said to my daughter, I said, you should take a multimedia. That's my background. I said, take a class about, film. So you learn about a camera and an aperture and f-stops and lighting. Yes. Because when it comes to SketchUp and Revit, if you have those lighting skills, you're going to be...
It's huge.
It's so big. Yes. So impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I think anything where you're working through a process and learning how to learn is that no matter what AI does in the future and all that kind of stuff, you're always going to be valuable if you know how to think.
Totally. Right. Well, that's what AI is really trying to take away from us is our ability to think.
Are you concerned about AI for architectural?
I'm concerned about AI for
affecting the industry.
For humanity.
Well, that's a whole conversation and podcast in itself. But you think it's going to affect the architectural community?
I think that there's a chance I think it definitely will. I mean, is it now? I
think it's just tools. Yes. I think AI is just a tool. Is the way I'm looking at it.
Yes.
Trying to.
But it could affect the business of architecture, right? Are people going to be satisfied with good enough? Or, when we take a client through a design process, our goal is to make them understand exactly why the building is the way it is, right? Like if you've got kids in the house for 2 more years and, you come in every day and trip over their shoes, and we're going to take on a project, and that makes you angry, and we're going to take on a project and it's going to cost you $50,000 more for us to move those shoes. If you're okay with tripping over them, then as long as you know you're going to trip over them, I'm okay with that decision. But when you walk in and kick them to the side, I don't want you to say, that damn architect, why didn't he think about this?
Right.
I want you to think, that damn architect told me this was going to happen, but it's worth the $50,000 for another 2 years to kick them aside.
I love that.
I mean, I really like to have clients informed about how they're spending their money. It's not a car. You can't get in and drive down the street and say it's too slow. I can't see out the back window. It's the only way to do it for me is to generate alternatives.
Well, that's great.
And then we can have a conversation like, okay, over the kitchen's far away from the garage in this one, but it's got great light and a great view of the pool. And, and over here it's closer to the garage where we can have a mudroom maybe that's better. And, maybe even a utility room and, getting the groceries, which everybody seems to be afraid of. That and washing windows. I'm like, so when was the last time you washed your windows?
Yeah. Yeah. We have those same conversations.
So you mentioned your daughter lives in Edinburgh.
Yes. My son is a Florida Poly up in Lakeland, studying electrical engineering, and my daughter is in Edinburgh.
So I guess you visit her there. Have you visited her there? Or?
She did undergraduate in Galway, Ireland.
Unbelievable.
So she was in Galway for like 6 years. She did her undergrad and her master's. Oh my goodness. There. And then she went to the University of Edinburgh to do her PhD. And she's defending her, I think they call it a Viva there, on the 20th. So she's not coming home.
Not coming home. So have you been there? Have you visited?
I try to get 2 times a year.
Okay.
So has going there and seeing, has that affected your...
Huge impact on my design.
I bet.
Yes.
In what
how
way?
can it not?
One thing that I really appreciate is they seem to think of things less emotionally, right? So if they have history that's history, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so to them, it's not so precious necessarily because they've got everything's, So they're more like a fire department, right? If you've got equipment on a truck and it's not serviceable or usable, it's got to go off the truck. Right? The last thing you want is something that, so fire departments are really good at throwing stuff away if it's not repairable or maintainable, right? So what I noticed in Edinburgh is that it seems to me, and this is just me, I haven't read anything about this, but it seems to me that if it doesn't work, it goes.
Right.
It either works or it doesn't work.
Yeah, you don't try to make it work.
And I think they feel the same way about energy, right? Like we were traveling north of Edinburgh on the North Sea, and we stopped at this castle that was falling apart way out on the water, and I'm like marveling at this, from
architectural wonder.
Yeah, and just the beauty of the whole thing, right? And then I looked down and I noticed there's a photovoltaic cell.
A what?
A solar cell and a solar panel down on the ground next to the castle with a light to shine on the castle for night, right? Here we'd be like, you can't put that technology in front of something historic. And then I look up and in the North Sea everywhere, there's windmills.
Yeah.
Right? You can't do that here because it's going to ruin the visual, character. I'm staring at this thing that is absolutely phenomenal from many, many, many years ago. And the impact, and then, you look, then they have pocket nuclear facilities, that are further up the coast, and a gas, well out in it's like whatever's working. And this could be my projection onto the way things are. I don't know this, but it seems to me like whatever works is what we're going to use.
Right.
Yes, we can make it beautiful. Yes, we can do those things, but we're not going to save something because we have some romantic vision of our past.
Right.
But they do save stuff. I don't mean to say that. It's not easy to build a contemporary building in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
But there are great contemporary buildings in Edinburgh. Some of the additions and things they've done are just really sensitive and phenomenal. Like I stand there and I'm a geek,
Yeah, and it's
my daughter knows that. She schedules our trips to go see
so
things.
You can,
where she can buy wool and I can see architecture.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So,
well, that's a great. Trips are definitely, inspirational, and they definitely enhance how you come back from them, and you are reinvigorated for many reasons.
We just came back from London, one of the things that I've mentioned this a number of times to a number of people is we went to see a friend who's living in a house 522 years old.
Right.
And
so no, I'm
it's
from Haddonfield.
mind-boggling.
We're not that old.
Mind-boggling.
That's twice as old as anything we.
It's crazy.
Like,
to
she's
wrap
2
your
times
head
older
around.
than the United States. But,
Yes.
But walking into the house, and like Tiffany says all the time, there wasn't a straight wall.
Nothing was straight.
Nothing. But what, like, my hairs and my arms were standing on end, just being in the house, sitting there going, this house is like 522 years old. And it was like the coolest little house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Their
how is this place still
architecture-
standing?
Yes.
Like, what?
It's funny. Their detailing.
And it looked-
Their detailing was a little better than ours.
And our friend, she had renovated the master bathroom. So the master bathroom had a more modern.
Well, it was still like on par with the house like that, though. Like she did it right.
Yeah, and I think that that's appropriate in the because it offset. It's not trying to. If you went in it and tried to mimic what had been there, it would take away, like, if you went in and you said, okay, so some of this trim is 500 years old, now you'd question like what's new and what's old, right? It's better to distinguish between the two and allow what is really special to stay.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting how the architecture in areas have been inhabited forever by European types, right?
Right.
It's what worked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like they didn't have the luxury of saying, I want to, there's a window tax back in the day. And so like you got taxed on how many windows you had.
Yeah, right.
Well, now you see a lot of glass in a hazy, cloudy area, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And, I think maybe it's a reaction to being told that, if you had more windows, you had to pay more money.
Well, it's just, flying back and the two of us talking about the house and just our trip and so forth, and then coming back to the office here, and we look at like, how many projects we get. The house is 30 years old. Okay, the client wants to knock the house down.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people are just buying houses, knocking them down, and putting new because it's 30 years old or it's 40 years old. Why did this house last not just that house, the whole area, all the houses in that area are all 400 and 500 years old.
Yeah.
And they don't look like they're 400 or 500 years old. I mean,
No.
the thatched roofs kind of,
Give it
Yeah,
away.
that gives
that's
it away.
still different.
Yeah.
Yep. No,
Okay.
I think they just feel differently about where they live, how they live, and
Yeah.
it's it's a cultural thing,
Yep.
But all of the cool things we see there, usually it's like, you're walking through a little alley with these great
Magic.
laid stones,
Yep.
with-
Isn't that the
Yeah.
that
truth?
have a pattern to control the water runoff,
Yep.
and and they're stepped so it ripples, so it doesn't get a good
So
flow.
intentional.
Everything is intentional.
I know.
Intentional is appropriate and intentional.
Yeah. And
That's how I judge design work.
And I love that.
Well, a little, I thought was very cool looking, and I had the question like, what is that? And at each corner of the house, positioned really well, was like a
Wine
a big wine barrel.
Those
like
are the water.
And so the gutter from the house came down into the wine barrel, and at the bottom of the barrel there was a spigot. But it was the way it was built and set up. It looked like it was part of the house and looked very cool. And it was like, what is that for?
Mhm.
She's like, so we don't really have public water. That's how I water my plants.
Right.
He says, what do you mean? How do you water your
Rain
plants?
barrel.
She's like,
Yep.
that's collects the water and the spigot. I take my garden bucket and I
Mhm.
fill that up and I water my flowers. That's how
Yeah.
I water my grass. That's how
It seems like there's some simple ways of life,
yes.
that they have that we are trying to convince our society to invest in and do. And I mean, it's common sense stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, sustainability is an issue that we, environmental change. We can talk about who's responsible for it and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
But we can't change. We can't question whether it's changing.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not changing, that's just ridiculous.
Well, that's the most constant thing is change.
And so we should be doing things to try to address
Preserve,
that
yeah.
and make sure. And they're great at it. I mean, that's those buildings have been able to withstand a whole bunch of changes, and that's why they're still there.
Yeah.
And it's
a great profession to be a part of. It's a great thing to be able to appreciate where the growth of architecture has translated all over the world, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's
and to have our own part of it here.
Yeah. I mean, architecture is that. I mean, it's so much that like no one person can kind of everybody specializes in a part of it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there are architects who study societies and design towns and try to figure that kind of stuff out. Of course, if they go to Europe, then they realize that we regulate everything here that looks great and is fun there. Like that little alley that you go through that has this little cool little pub at the end where, and here, if we tried to do that, you can't do that.
No, can't do that.
The walkway's got to be 40 feet wide.
Right. But even the food that we eat here, we didn't go, but I had two friends kept telling me, you go to McDonald's, and when you're in England, I go, I don't want to make McDonald's. So my wife and kids only want to go to McDonald's. Yeah. They're like, if you go to McDonald's, the burger tastes like it did like in the 1960s and 70s. It is totally different than what it is here in America.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really?
That's funny.
They're like, it's because in the United States, they've put all these different things and they've changed the way in which what's going into our food.
To put things a little bit in perspective, though, I think, when I'm over there talking to people, they're amazed by what we do.
Of course, without a doubt.
So a little bit of it is
without
like
a doubt.
that distance and seeing things that are just different and responding to that.
Yeah.
And, I'm glad we have that curiosity.
Right?
Yes.
Isn't that the truth? We're grateful for it.
Yeah. If we didn't, I mean, it would be the same old, same old, same old.
Same old, same old. Well, Jay, thank you.
Do you have an Instagram? Are you on Instagram?
Yes.
So what is your Instagram for anyone who's listening or watching? So
J Reinert Architect. Yeah.
And your website is the same?
The letter J. Mm-hmm. When you're named Jay,
right?
Which my brothers used to tell me, Mom and Dad didn't love you enough to give you a name; they gave you a letter. Because my real name is Jay. It's not John.
I never heard anyone say that. That's funny.
So the letter J,
right?
Reinert Architecture, is at .com. Is our so. The letter J.
So we encourage people to follow along on your growth and Forbes and all that fabulousness. Awesome. Thank you for joining us today.
We're hoping for 2026 too. I'm a little nervous.
I was going to say, keep it going, right?
Nervous. You have to resubmit?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. New project, I'm sure.
It's,
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for joining us on this rainy South Florida day.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the iDesign Lab podcast. Have a great day.
iDesign Labs podcast is an SW Group production in association with the 5-Star and TW Interiors. To learn more about iDesign Lab or TW Interiors, please visit twinteriors.com.